Chapter 1055. Welcome and Paul, and in this chapter, Pluton's location is revealed. Shanks shows us a glimpse of his power, even what Odin found on Laphel, and so many more questions, all in this chapter. Usually I go from beginning to end when I talk about chapters, but from all that we learned in this chapter, there's only one place to start, and that's with Robin and Pluton. In chapter 1053, we find out that Pluton is in fact in Wano, and after going through a secret passageway that Sukiyaki shows Robin and Law, who after not seeing her at the party, looked for her, was able to find her in this secret room. Pretty sure he followed her. They keep going down as Sukiyaki says that he never told Kaido about where the poneglyph is, but because Jack is a fishman, Kaido was still able to find it. This shocks Robin as she doesn't understand why Jack being a fishman is important, but Sukiyaki says that they have to see it for themselves. The stairs lead to the bottom of the ocean where a glass blocks with water, where they see the ruins of an ancient kingdom. They see the old Wanokuni, which existed 800 years ago around the world century. It was preserved because it wasn't seawater. Sukiyaki says that Wanokuni was a large country, about 3 times bigger than the current Wano, and it was located at the bottom of Mount Fuji, which is this island, and it was at the same level of the sea like a normal island. I wonder if the body of the head of Onigashima is down here, and is it responsible for bringing together the current island of Wano after the flood? Just some ideas. Iyaki continues on that at some point they created the Great Walls which protected Wano, but the downside was that it kept water in, and as the water accumulated and flooded the entire country and reached the peak before spilling over, that's how the waterfall which leads into Wano was made. They couldn't stay there anymore and they abandoned the country and built a new country around Mount Fuji. This was a lot of information. Some questions: what was so urgent that they had to make a wall that had no holes, no drainage, even though it was a detriment to them? What did they fear? Was it all to protect Pluton, which we found out under the platform at the bottom of Mount Fuji? How was the wall made? Maybe a former user of Akaino's devil fruit, or Molly's devil fruit, the revolutionary commander, or Pika's devil fruit, or a combination of all of them? Was there someone they feared? Him perhaps? And how was the current Wano built? Because we see that it is just a collection of islands with different weather and geographical patterns. Maybe it was built with the help of us, the continent polar. Just some ideas. Oda keeps building up the hype for the void century. Robin sees rope ranking, so this is the thought the crew has. So just one more till laughter. The end of the series really is near. Oda is here with Robin. He had some banter with Robin on their way down when we see another rope ranking. Oda has the plan for Law because he's always present when important information is being said. The theory of Law being in sword may be true, although I don't think so. Sukiyaki has never seen Pluton, so he can't show Robin. I don't think Pluton is a person, unless that person has been staying down there for over 800 years. Maybe a giant. The biggest revelation, or second or third of the chapter, depending on what gets you hyped, is we now know how the borders of Wano can be opened. Opening Wano means literally destroying the walls which protect Wano and unleashing the ancient weapon Pluton. Just like me and a lot of you, Robin is confused as to why Odin would want to open up Wano so strongly. Sukiyaki says that he doesn't know what Odin found during his journey, and that this was all that was passed down through the Shogun family. So was the plan always to open up Wano? Because they made sure the information was never lost. But this why Junisha came to Wano to destroy the walls. Why did Odin want the ancient weapon to be released? So many questions, so many theories going through my head. So be sure to subscribe to see those when they come out. Even with the reveal of the ancient city and the location of Pluton, equally as hype moments are still to come. Greenbull is beating the scrappers and Momo, but Momo still tells Yamato to stay out of it. Kaizo tries to burn Greenbull with his scroll juice, but Greenbull has a technique to counter it, and he says that he obviously accounted for such an obvious weakness. He catches the scrappers and starts sucking out their nutrients, and goes on about how Kaido was the only one that kept enemies away from Wano, even though his regime must have been hell. This is one thing I guess about Greenbull. He says Kaido is what kept Wano safe, and the next thing he says is he wants to take Luffy's head. Is he serious? The person who took down Kaido, who even he said if he was still around, he wouldn't have come to Wano. Why does he think he can take Luffy? He's overconfident about the worst Admiral, and it took him only 3 chapters. Yamato wants to help, but Momo won't allow it. Momo wants to protect Wano by himself, so that in the long run, they won't have to rely on others for their safety. He wants Yamato to live and be free. Since she's been imprisoned in Onigashima her whole life, as more time passes, it feels like the conclusion Yamato will come to is to stay in Wano of her own free will, to help out, although I want her to join. I also want Karo to join her as well. While Greenbull is mocking Momo, he fires a borrow bread which shows Greenbull and burns his body. Yamato is in disbelief that Momo has mastered the devil fruit. My last video, I thought Momo not being able to do a borrow bread was why Vegapunk says the fruit is the fate, but now it seems he has the full move set of Kaido. The mystery still remains, why did Vegapunk say the devil fruit is a failure? I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to Magma Momo. Greenbull uses a new move where he emerges from a plant after his body is burnt. Even though I hate him, I can't deny his devil fruit is cool. As Greenbull continues to rampage, we see lightning in the sky. Shanks is using a new technique which is Conquerors Haki. He's able to stop Greenbull from a distance, and it will seem that Shanks is communicating with him with the voice of all things, like what Luffy did when he talked to Momo when he was under the ocean after Kaido knocked him out. Shanks is just outside Wano, and him using Haki from a distance is impressive. He also seen something similar from Rayleigh when he sends all the animals on Ruskaina. Shanks men are begging him to stop, and the new recruits are fainting. Shanks acknowledges that as a marine, Greenbull Greenbull is in the right, but he thinks it's tasteless to go after the new saplings who are fatigued after that battle that changed piracy. As Shanks says, we are now in the new era. Greenbull decides to leave as he doesn't want to fight Shanks and his crew, at least not now. It is foreshadowing for a future conflict. He doesn't want to fight Shanks and his crew, but it's okay if fight Luffy and his allies. Wow, who do you guys think is stronger? Shanks or Luffy, Law, and Kid's crew together? Let's make it interesting. I'll leave 2 comments. Like whichever you support, and that's how we will decide. We go to my friend panel. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbe are sitting just outside the city, watching the fight. Like I said in my last chapter review, if the Scabbard and Yamato can sense Greenbull, I see no reason why Luffy and the other top tiers wouldn't as well. Sanji and Zoro are impressed by Momo, while Jinbe comments on Shanks' Haki, and Luffy agrees, but they don't know it's Shanks, which proves my point. Greenbull must have come in contact with Shanks before. Shanks leaving Wano. Luffy says a familiar face came to mind, and that's how the chapter ends. I just love whenever Luffy is smiling, and seeing Luffy and his top officers just sitting watching the fight just gives off the air of them being a Yonko school. This just proves Greenbull arrogance. They weren't even bothered. This chapter answers some questions but brought up even more questions, such as the ones on screen. Kid wasn't in this chapter at all. My guess is either with Kaido's crew or looking for Big Mom or Kaido. Now for a serious question, what was Shanks' purpose for coming to Wano? To help Luffy in case the raid failed, or to ward off outsiders like Greenbull? But as we see, that wasn't needed. My theory is he wanted to confirm if Pluton was released and if Wano's border had been opened, or to promote the movie. But what I know is that this is definitely the voice of all things. Maybe Shanks heard the Sea King's prophecy when he was little and they were going to Fishman Island. Would be one of the reasons he believed in Luffy so strongly. No break next week, so more people coming next week, and I'll be here to cover it, so subscribe and like to see more. Thanks to all 12 people who subscribe. Let's keep growing together, as my goal for the end of the year is 3,000. If you got this far, subscribe for more, and if you're interested in why Blackbeard plan to capture Robin with you, watch this next video.